Word life, and welcome to the 3 Count Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Chambers. As always, I'm joined by the self-proclaimed Pat McAfee of the podcast, Ben Hobden. Welcome, Benny.
Thanks, Dill. Yeah, that's me, mate. Pat McAfee.
Is that
I'll take it.
does that
Thank you.
make does that make me Michael Cole?
Yeah, well, you do have Michael Cole characteristics. So I'll let you have that one.
I'll take that. He's had a long career. I did see the other day Michael Cole was on the Pat McAfee show and said that he's revitalized his career.
Oh well, thank you. I'll do all the best I can for you, mate.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. So, Benny, plenty of big matches, title changes, and surprise returns from Money in the Bank and Raw. So let's just dive straight into it.
Mate, Money in the Bank was huge. Let's go.
Pre-show, as we predicted, there was a SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, the Usos and the Mysterios. Really fun, action-packed match. And the Usos became 7-time champs after defeating the Mysterios. Lots of close calls. At one point, Jay jumped in the way of a 619 that was aimed at Jimmy.
That was so good. Just put his body on the line. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, that was cool, and allowed Jimmy to kind of come back and nail a super kick. Ended Jimmy rolled up Ray, and Jay kind of threw his weight on top of his brother from the outside to make the pin stick and the win. 7-time champs.
Yeah, just a little bit more heelish action there for the boys. So I thought it was a good match. I gave it a two count. Actually, to be honest, I thought it was pretty good.
2 count from me too.
Yeah.
It was a fun match, a great way to kick off the pay-per-view. I mean, even though it wasn't even on the pay-per-view, it was probably worthy of it. What's next for these two teams?
Like we said in the pre-show, mate, I don't think it's over. I think they'll continue on with their little feud that's going on. Now they've got the belts, the boys are going to want them back, definitely. So I think that's where they'll go with that. And obviously the Bloodline, they added the belts to the Bloodline, so see how that goes.
They've got all the gold, even though there's no gold on the SmackDown Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, that was funny when they were celebrating. They're like, we got all the gold, and they're slapping 2 silver belts together. I was like, okay, boys, I don't know what's going on here.
I'm hoping that there's some sort of like gimmick match at SummerSlam. I feel like maybe that's where it's headed rather than just a straight up match, like a ladder match or something.
Yeah, well, it is SummerSlam. It is the second biggest show of the year, so anything could happen.
Hopefully they'll do something spectacular. Now, when we kicked off the actual pay-per-view, we started with the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. In what was probably a little bit of a disappointing match, to be honest, Nikki A.S.H. climbed the ladder and became Miss Money in the Bank. Look, there were some interesting spots. One where Bliss hypnotized Zelina Vega to climb back down the ladder, which was interesting. Another, Nikki jumped off the top of a ladder from the outside to the inside to crossbody across everybody that was in the match. Later, it's kind of a la The Big Show in 2010. Alexa Bliss was buried under a whole bunch of ladders on the outside.
Exactly what I was thinking when I was watching it. I was like, is this what? She's the smallest one in the match and she's getting the Big Show treatment? What's going on here?
They had to neutralize her powers. So with Bliss out on the outside, Zelina, Liv, Naomi, Asuka, Natalya, and Tamina set up 3 ladders in the ring. They all climbed to the top of the ladders. They were all fighting. And Nikki, A.S.H., just kind of sneakily climbed up the back of one of them and grabbed the briefcase while they were all fighting, with kind of a bit of a surprise win. So you'll miss Money in the Bank.
Snuck straight past them, didn't she?
Yeah, Nikki A.S.H. What do you think of this, Benny?
Mate, I thought it was terrible. It just was not entertaining at all for me. Obviously they should have been a bit more theatrics. They should have given Alexa that chance to do that whole thing with it when she put her hand up to summon the briefcase. If they had made it move or something, I thought that would have been interesting. But I just, other than that, yeah, it just wasn't that much fun for me.
Yeah, I thought Liv had, kind of seemed like she was going to get it quite a few times. Like they were kind of teasing that a lot, and it just didn't end up happening. Nikki was a pretty surprise winner for me. I'm not a fan of the gimmick, but obviously Vince is.
Yeah.
We'll see. But as for Nikki, she's been around for a little while. She signed with the WWE in 2016 after 8 years on the independent scene. Debuted in NXT. Shortly after, she was repackaged as Nikki Cross and put in the group called Sanity, which they then put in her real life partner Killian Dane, who has since been let go. Eventually, the group debuted on the main roster, but it was disbanded in 2019 with a superstar shakeup. And she kind of, tagged with Alexa Bliss and She's come a long way, I think, though.
Yeah, you could say that. I just really don't like the gimmick, so it's infuriating a little bit. So
I agree. It's the gimmick for me, which doesn't really do it for me. What did you rate it, Ben?
I gave it a half count.
That's harsh.
It's sad, isn't it?
That is sad for the opening match of Money in the Bank. I gave it a 1 count. Was entertaining, but it wasn't well done. There weren't any botched spots. It just didn't.
No, that's one positive. I was thinking that myself. There wasn't really anything botched. They kept harping on about how Natalia kept saving everybody, kept stopping them from climbing the ladder. Like that was like the best thing that went on in the match. You know what I mean? Like it was really weird.
It was pretty disappointing. So. Moving on, the Raw Tag Team Championship match. AJ Styles and Omos, they defeated the Viking Raiders to keep their tag team titles. It was a pretty good match. I think it really exposed how green Omos still is.
Oh, without a doubt. I literally wrote down he's got a long way to go. He looks so awkward and lost out there the whole time.
Yeah.
Like even when he's trying to get a tag and stuff like that, or when he's just on the ring apron, there's nothing like to promote or push AJ even more or anything. Like he just stands there. Like he's just like a big tree standing there doing nothing.
I mean, great spots. There was one really great spot in it. I mean, you can expect good spots in an AJ match, where Omos threw him over the top rope from the ring to the outside to then do a Hurricane Rana, which was pretty amazing onto Eric. The Viking Raiders.
Yeah, I thought that was good, but the only issue with that was the fact that he kept saying, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" Like it was like. It just seemed weird, like he was trying to call it in the ring a bit as well. It was a bit awkward.
Yeah. Omos is still. I mean, he's an absolute beast, and once he gets his sea legs under him, he'll be great. But I agree. I think it's a long way till we see that.
Yeah.
But if anyone can carry him, it's AJ Styles.
Oh, without a doubt.
So the Viking Raiders, they were able to hit a Viking experience on AJ. As Ivar went for the pin, Omos used his strength to push Eric onto the pin to break it up. AJ made the tag. Omos re-entered the match and just did a slam for the win. Not the most interesting of finishes. What did you rate that one, Ben?
But I gave it a 1.5 count. I still thought it was an all right match. It was just AJ carried it really. He was the rag doll, and if it wasn't for AJ, then it would have been a tough match to watch. To be fair.
Yeah, I agree. I gave it 1.5 as well. Moving on to the next match. It was for the WWE Championship, Bobby Lashley against Kofi Kingston. This is as close to a squash match as you're going to get.
Yep, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, Kofi put a bit of early offense in, a really small amount of early offense in, but there was literally...
Had the bell even gone yet?
Well, MVP grabbed his leg when the bell went, so...
That's right, yeah.
That kind of stopped him at the start, but there was not much that happened. So... Literally and figuratively, he was dominated by Bobby Lashley. 3 dominators on him, put the hurt lock in, and the ref had to call it.
I gave it a half count just because of how dominant he looked. But other than that, it was a squash.
Yeah, I gave it the 1 because I gave it a half for the match and then a half for just establishing how dominant Bobby Lashley is.
I literally wrote down poor Kofi. That was all I wrote for this match.
That was pretty harsh.
Got nothing else for it. That's it.
Yeah. Surely they could have done something more, but I get what they're trying to do. Moving on, our next match was for the Raw Women's Championship. Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair. I think this was the best match these two have had together since they've started having matches for the past few months.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good match as well.
The fans weren't so sure at the start. There was a lot of "We Want Becky" chants for a while. Charlotte Flair flipping everyone the bird. But there was a lot of...
She loves doing that these days.
Yeah. Imagine a heel wanting to flip people the bird. But it was full of action, a lot of heel tactics, near falls, false finishes, high spots. It was almost match of the night for me.
Well, yeah, I gave it a 2 count. I didn't think it was as good as what you thought it was, obviously, but and Rhea did that stupid little thing with a hand and stuff. I'm like, come on, what is that? Like, that was childish heel rather than heel.
Yeah, there's some.
So I guess she's still trying, she's still learning, but I mean, yeah, I thought Charlotte was pretty good. Rhea was not quite as good, but yeah.
Yeah, still working on the heel. I mean, it's hard to tell if she's a heel or not in this match. She's trying to figure it out along with us. But look, it went back and forth, ended with Charlotte. She trapped Ripley's leg between the turnbuckle and the steel steps, repeatedly kicked the steps, just destroying Rhea's knee, throwing it back in the ring, throwing the figure eight leg lock in, and not much Ripley could do but tap out. So I gave it a 2 count as well. I did think it was a good match, but 2 count for me.
Yeah.
Now, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Fantastic match.
Wow.
Fantastic match. If you're going to go back and watch any match of the night, watch this one.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Full of action. Anyone could have won it. There were so many great spots in it. We had Johnny Drip Drip and Seth Drip and Rollins forming a bit of an alliance after having a little argument who was the king of the drip. They formed an alliance, took out most of the field one by one with the ladder, till obviously Rollins, as he does, took him out. McIntyre looked like he had the briefcase at one point, but was ambushed by Veer and Shanky and then just brutalized with a chair by Jinder Mahal and dragged to the back.
By the Monday Night Maharaja, you mean, mate?
Monday Night Maharaja. There were 2 spots which really stood out to me. One was Rollins' powerbomb KO from the inside the ring to the outside to on top of a ladder, and the ladder just folded in half.
Yeah.
Incredible. And then obviously the one probably everyone's talking about, Ricochet. He's on the top of the ladder. Riddle pushed the ladder over. He managed to leap to the top rope, did a somersault onto a few of the competitors on the outside, which was just... He's got his feet on it.
How he landed on that rope and then to do that was crazy.
It was amazing.
I thought Riddle, I can't remember exactly who he hit, but he hit a couple of RKOs and he hit one straight off the top of the ladder as well. I thought that was pretty good.
He did. Riddle was full of RKOs at one point. I think he now...
reaching out to his bro.
Yeah, just channeling his inner Viper. And just as he was channeling the inner Viper and he was on the ground, he got stomped by Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And it looked like from that point, Rollins was going to win.
I thought Rollins had it. Yeah, I thought it was all over.
But Big E climbed the ladder with Rollins and gave him a big ending off the ladder, which was also pretty amazing.
Yeah, I wish they had do you remember that WrestleMania camera from above? That time when they did if they had that shot, that would have been awesome.
The Wile E. Coyote cam, as Kim always used to call it. That would have been pretty amazing. So Big E did the big ending and then climbed the ladder to grab the briefcase. And Big E, your Mr. Money in the Bank.
Yeah, it was a brilliant match. I gave it 2.5 count, as I said. And I'm glad that Big E won. We both picked Big E to win, so that was good. It'll be interesting to see where he goes now. So obviously we'd love him to go over and join up with the New Day boys and go for the Raw title, but he might just hold on to it for a while, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely well deserved for Big E. He first signed with WWE in 2009. He went to FCW, which was then rebranded to NXT. He became the second ever NXT champion by beating Seth Rollins. Soon called up to the main roster, and whose bodyguard did he become, Benny?
Dolph
Ziggler's bodyguard.
And that was would have been when Dolph had won the Money in the Bank probably and cashed it in, I'd say.
Yeah. So he's been through a lot. It's definitely well deserved for Big E. So we were both very happy about that. I gave it a 3 count.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. It was a pretty good match. I'm not going to lie.
It was really fun to watch, and I kind of agree with you. I think he's going to hold the briefcase for a little while. He doesn't need to rush to cash it in. And I kind of think, I hope it'll come at a time when we're not ready for it.
Yeah, just out of nowhere.
Yeah. So good for Big E. Congratulations, Big E. We then move on to the final match of the evening, the Universal Championship match. Now, there is a lot to unpack with this one, Benny, so I will do my best to get through it.
Mate, get us through there. Let us know what you think.
It was a very slow, grinding, old school kind of match. It reminded me a lot of a Triple H match, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. The psychology through the match was brilliant. Just like you didn't know where it was going to go. It was just so slow and methodical with what they were doing. And yeah, it was really good.
It was. At one point, Edge speared Roman through the barricade. When they were back in the ring, Reigns hit Edge with a Superman punch that set him hurtling into poor Lil Nate, Charles Robinson, the referee. Edge ended up putting Reigns in the crossface with the steel chair leg. He's tapping out. Obviously, there's no referee around. The Usos tried to make the save. but they were thwarted by the Mysterios. Then Seth Rollins just popped up out of nowhere, which we expected
and called.
and called. Kicked Edge in the back of the head to break up the crossface. Edge managed to recover, hit a spear on Roman, no ref to make the 3 count. Rollins came back, distracted Edge. Reigns hit the spear with a new referee, countered the pin for Reigns to retain his Universal Championship.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot more to this now. So after the match finished, Edge and Rollins kind of brawled all through the audience. So you can tell where this is building. This is a Edge Rollins SummerSlam match, and one that I'll be pretty excited to see.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good match.
So once they're out of the way, Reigns was celebrating in the ring. Heyman gave him the microphone. He did a "Everyone has to acknowledge me," and then what did we hear?
That was terrible. Both of our attempts at that was terrible.
That was pretty bad. John Cena making his return. Ran out. It was a huge pop. Huge pop. I think probably the biggest pop for Cena since he came back at the Royal Rumble in 2008. An enormous pop. I had goosebumps. You know, I'm not a huge Cena mark, but I still had goosebumps.
I'm going to put my hand up. I fully marked out. Like, I actually yelled while I was watching it. I was like, that's crazy. And I used to be a Cena fan, but like I popped. I fully, like, high school schoolgirl popped for it, which is pretty embarrassing to admit, but I'm going to put my hand up.
Which was, and what was great, he didn't cut a promo. He just went to the ring and just gave Roman a, "You can't see me." Though after the pay-per-view, he did talk to the WWE Universe, basically just saying how great it was to be back and saying how he was living in Bizarro World because there was someone with a sign that said, "If Cena shows up, we cheer." You know, channeling the old "If Cena wins, we riot" sign. I feel like maybe someone at WWE was giving those signs out. I don't know.
Hey, wouldn't be the first time that's happened. So,
so we have heard that Cena will be a free agent, so he can now appear on Raw and SmackDown, and he told us he would be at Raw. So this is looking like Cena reigns at SummerSlam.
Well, yeah, you would think so. What did you give the match as a rating?
As a rating, I gave it a 2.
Yeah, really. I gave it a 2.5. I thought it was a bit better than what you did, obviously. Obviously, the bit of the shenanigans at the end didn't help. But I really liked, as I said, how old school it was, like that old school feel. It really sort of took me back. So that's probably why I enjoyed it a bit more, I'd say.
Even the shenanigans at the end kind of helped to its old school feel, I guess. Like a slow grinding match, then a whole bunch of stuff happening at the end for a big pop.
Yeah. Typical Vince with the schmozzle.
Yeah. But yeah, look.
But it really led into that pop for Cena, though. So that's what they were hoping for.
Look, 2 count, but I don't think that's, necessarily a bad rating.
No, not at all.
So yeah, so that was the end of Money in the Bank, which was a fantastic pay-per-view. 1 or 2 matches which weren't great, but the rest were really, really good. Which leads us now into Raw. Now, there's still a lot more to unpack with Raw.
Raw was huge.
Huge. It was the Raw after Money in the Bank. This is the new one.
Well, I guess it's the first Raw with a crowd, so they had to have something big.
They did, and I think there's a little bit of a competition between SmackDown and Raw in the fact that the networks aren't too happy when someone gets something over the others. So, so I think that's why they brought Cena out for Raw. He kicked things off, basically saying it's great to be back. He's back because of 2 things: the WWE Universe, and because he thinks Roman Reigns is an asshole. The rare swearing from John Cena, and he wants to take him down a peg, which I'm sure a lot of people want to see. He said he'll also be on SmackDown, but as we mentioned before, he can show up on both, apparently.
Wasn't he? He was saying he doesn't. He said Roman's not over, and he thinks that he's over, but he's not over at all. I was like, Roman's over. Come on, buddy. Yeah. Roman's over.
Yeah, it was kind of grasping at straws, that one. I will give him that. The promo ended with Riddle coming out, and Cena and Riddle having a bit of a bro down, a bro off.
Look, for those listening and can't see it, I'm shaking my head, and I'm really just struggling with Riddle. But anyway. Well, go on, Dylan. Sorry to interrupt.
How many bros can you fit into a minute of airtime? I guess we found out about.
It was just weird.
About 1,000. which we then moved into the next match, which was Riddle and the Viking Raiders taking on AJ Omos and John Morrison, or as he wants to be known now, America's Moist Wanted. I don't know if I'll buy that shirt.
No, did I mishear that? I must have misheard that.
America's Moist Wanted, and there's t-shirts. I've got a lot of pretty lame shirts, but I don't think I'll be getting that one.
That's a lot, you know it.
Now the match ended in a pretty funny way. Riddle grabbed the drip stick from the Miz and squirted Omos's back, and then kind of got out of dodge. So Omos thought that it was the Miz who did it. He tried to go and get the Miz. It was a bit of a schmozzle. It led to a Viking experience on Morrison for the win. Next up,
AJ wasn't going to take the pin.
No, AJ was never going to take that pin. Which is a shame for Morrison too. You know, I kind of want them to give him a little bit of a push, but it seems like he's just going to kind of be stuck in that mid-card oblivion.
Yeah, exactly.
Poor guy. In any case, next up we saw a Symphony of Destruction match between Elias and Jackson Riker, where there was all kinds of musical instruments around the ring. It gave a lot of airtime to Elias and Jackson Riker on such a big Raw.
Yeah, but the crowd really wasn't warm to it at all.
No,
I think they're trying to give Riker a push, but it was a lot of dead air there, especially for a symphony orchestra match or whatever it is. This destruction of, I can't even stand that match. They tried to do it. It wasn't as good as the Braun one, but I mean, it was still okay.
I mean, there are a lot of spots that should have gotten over. You know, like Elias going through a gong, Riker having a cello broken over his back, several pin attempts on top of a piano.
Well, this is where I think the writers and Vince and everyone's going to have to think about it and be like, what was working without a crowd? You got to sort of ease into it. You know what I mean? And I just think that they tried to give Riker a push beforehand. Elias has never really been over.
No.
So it's going to be tough with these crowds at the moment because they're going to want the best.
So that match ended. Riker gave Elias a superplex to the outside through some tables, and got the pin for the win. Elias had a bit of color as well, which was interesting. They didn't cut away too much.
Always good to see.
But I did see afterwards on one of the WWE Network exclusives, Elias was sitting there saying something needs to change. So hopefully there is a bit of a gimmick change coming for Elias.
Was he going to start playing like the ukulele or something instead?
Maybe just give him some entrance music so we don't have to... I won't go into it anymore. I'm not a fan of Elias either.
No.
Next up, we had Natalya and Tamina taking on Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax with Reginald. Reginald tried to cause a distraction, ended up costing Baszler and Jax the match. It wasn't so...
Shayna eats another pin.
Poor Shayna.
Yeah.
They need to give her a push. I mean, personally, I think the best thing they could do for her is have one of them turn on each other, have a match, and then just be done with.
Yeah. But put Shayna over in that match.
Yeah, exactly. Because Nia doesn't need it. She's a behemoth. She can beat anyone. So putting Shayna over would be huge for Shayna. But
exactly.
In any case, I guess WWE does not agree with us. But it wasn't about that match. It was about what happened after the match, where Nia Jax essentially dumped Reginald by giving him a headbutt. I think that's pretty telling. Seemingly ending their partnership. But it
all worked out good for him.
The night was not over for Reggie. Out came Akira Tozawa, whole bunch of guys chasing him for the 24/7 title. Reginald took his chance and did a few somersaults and ended up getting a pin to become the new 24/7 champion. And then did a couple more really acrobatic moves to kind of get out of dodge and run to the back with the title. So your new 24/7 champion, Reginald.
Break up with Nia, get some gold. Hey, win-win.
Hey, worked out well for him. Next up, we have Sheamus defending his US title against Humberto Carrillo successfully, but the telling thing was Damian Priest watching in the back. So I'm guessing we're going to see a Damian Priest US title run at some point soon.
You would think so.
What was interesting was NXT champion Karrion Kross made his Raw debut, which I felt like it was just going to be a squash match. He took on Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy got the kind of sneaky cheating pin for the win.
Jeff Hardy came back to his old music as well.
He
did. The crowd popped massively.
He did. So
I thought it was a very weird debut, though, to put him up there. The first thing that popped into my head straight away was that's just Vince screwing over another NXT talent. Straight away, that's all I thought. I was like, this is just ridiculous. Jeff Hardy has done nothing recently.
Yeah.
And then they go and put him over the NXT champion. Like, that's just a slap in the face.
I mean, I'm feeling this is leading into a Carry On Cross Jeff Hardy SummerSlam match, obviously. It'd be pretty interesting to see if they give Jeff Hardy a shot at the NXT championship. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I think that's going backwards, but yeah.
We also had an Alexa's Playground, which was interesting, with special guest Lily, the doll, Eva Marie.
Here's a question for you, Dill.
Yeah.
How many of those Lily dolls do you reckon they sold now that they've got crowds back at the stadiums and stuff?
Plenty.
They will be selling those like crazy.
I was actually surprised how many, like, when they did crowd shots and pans, how many little girls had the Alexa Bliss, like, play pain shirt on and, you know, were kind of dressed up as Alexa Bliss. It seems like an odd thing for, I don't know, but little girls to
I've seen full-grown men with the Lily dolls in their hands, okay. So, hey.
To each their own. Eva Marie and Dewdrop also showed up on Alexa's Playground, and Eva Marie told Dewdrop that she should throw Lily in the trash where she belongs, and then just magically tripped over her own feet.
That was all Lily.
Yeah, that was all Lily. That was pretty terrible. We had Lashley issuing an open challenge, which was answered by Keith Lee, the returning
Congratulations,
Keith Lee.
Dill. You've picked it again.
I picked that one. Thank you.
Start calling you Nostradamus or something. I don't know.
I thought about wearing like a big hat and getting a big beard, but
you're on fire.
I did pick 7 of the 8 matches.
7 of the 8 at the pay-per-view, and then you picked Keith Lee returning. So I mean, you've done well there, mate.
Just saying, listen to this guy. But his return was not as I expected. He ate a pin from Lashley.
He didn't look good. He didn't look good in the ring, to be honest. A bit of ring rust, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely a bit of ring rust, and he was just there to show a bit of dominance to Lashley, who was then confronted by Goldberg. Returning Goldberg, which we mentioned a little bit on the preview show. So we're looking like we're going to get Lashley Goldberg. There was plenty of who can stop this man at the pay-per-view, and I guess we found out who they think can.
Pretty simple with the old I'm next. So
Goldberg, just saying I'm next. So that was it for Lashley's open challenge. So earlier in the night, Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, they granted Rhea Ripley a rematch against Charlotte Flair. Another pretty good match for a little while, but it ended when Flair hit Rhea with the title and getting herself disqualified. Ripley was irate after the bell, hit the riptide on the outside of Flair, which is when we hear Nikki A.S.H's music hit. She cashed in her contract, hit a crossbody from the top rope, and pinned Charlotte to become the new women's champion. Thoughts?
Where do you want me to start with this one? All right. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here because this really annoyed me. Okay. For one, Charlotte wasn't even that hurt to be able to have just a crossbody off the top cost her the title. 2, I think they were short of time because Rhea hadn't even hit the riptide before Nikki's music hit. If you watch it, Nikki's music hits before she hits the riptide and comes running out. So I think there was a bit of a stuff up there, or they're running out of time. So that's what really annoyed me. I just can't believe that the greatest women's champ we've ever had took a crossbody off the top by Nikki A.S.H of all people to lose the title. Rant over.
I'm with you. I mean, the crossbody is not a finishing move. That's not going to put anyone out. I thought for sure Flair was kicking out of that. And it was going to be the first time that it hasn't been cashed in. Yeah. But
here's the fun part for you. That's now 3 out of the 5 briefcase holders have cashed in on Charlotte.
Wow. There you go. So she
4
now ties
those,
John Cena.
Yeah, and 4 of those have held the case for less than a day now.
Wow.
The women's briefcase.
Interesting.
Yeah, so sorry to steal you. I know you're the stats man, but I just I've seen come up with a little something.
I like
today,
it. I like it. Throw
trying
stats.
To steal your thunder.
Steal my thunder, mate. I'm 7 from 8.
Little D'Lo Brown.
7 from 8. How you like that stat?
Game on. Game on.
So yes, Nikki A.S.H, your new Raw Women's Champion. Where to next? I have honestly no clue.
Mate, that's up in the that's the emoji, mate. Who knows?
the shrug for that one. I mean,
shrug. Yeah, you can't see me because I'm too fat, but I mean, yeah.
obviously we've got to have Charlotte trying to get her title back at some point. Maybe they, she did beat Charlotte and Rhea with a couple of 3-minute challenges. Maybe they go with this whole she's almost a superhero and she can kind of squeak through a few of these matches, but we will see. Nikki A.S.H v Charlotte Flair SummerSlam match.
Nah,
I don't know.
Nah, I can't see that happening. Well, who knows with Vince these days? He must really like her, like you alluded to earlier.
Well, I mean, here's how I see it. Maybe he's thinking that she can be the little girl's John Cena, right? Maybe they just start pumping the merch out. We know the merch goes out a lot faster towards the kids. So
those capes and those eye masks and stuff like that.
Maybe that's the plan. Maybe it's a merch thing. I don't know, but look,
But all we heard the whole time in the crowd was "We want Becky." So I mean, Becky and Sasha still to come back.
Yeah, fatal 4-way with Becky and Charlotte and Rhea and Nikki A.S.H. Maybe that might make the match a little bit more interesting.
It's just Charlotte as another interim title holder. It's just weird. I don't know what they're doing there. They're just trying to get her up so that she's got as many as her father, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, that's us. We're not a big fan of the gimmick, so it was a bit of a disappointing end to Raw for us. But looking at the socials, there was a lot of people who were very happy for Nikki Cross and
Twitter was going off.
Thought she deserved it, and I'm not saying she doesn't deserve it, but I kind of wanted someone else. But yeah, there was a lot of love on Twitter for her.
I get they're just saying that how she's tried so hard for so long or whatever, and she deserves it and that kind of stuff. But hey, I don't know. I guess as you said, it's we don't like the gimmick, so we're not really fans.
Maybe they'll fine tune the gimmick and make it a little bit better, and we'll jump on board eventually.
Will she become an actual superhero? Is that where it's leading to? So it's almost superhero. What's she going to have to do to then become the superhero? And is that going to be an evolution style thing for her or something like that?
Maybe the Hurricane will come back and train her.
I said the Hurricane should be revealed as her father. That would be the ultimate.
Well,
stand back.
That could be pretty fun. So that is it for unpacking Money in the Bank and Raw. Look, thanks for joining us. There was a lot to unpack tonight.
Overall, it was 2 good shows, I thought.
Yeah. Two good, fun, solid shows.
Yeah.
Look, we'll be back to do some retro recaps in the lead up to SummerSlam, which should be fun. As always, please sound off on our socials and throw any suggestions or comments our way at 3CountPod on Twitter and Facebook, at 3CountPodcast on Instagram, or email us at 3countpod@outlook.com. Thanks for joining us, Benny.
Thank you very much. Have a good one, guys. Take care.
And we'll see you next time on the 3 Count Podcast.